How to save functions and take derivatives with your Ti-Nspire CAS CX. Our mission today is let f of x equal x sine of x, this trig function here, and then what we're asked to do is graph f of x, I'm sorry about the notation here, but f prime at x and f double prime at x. So what I'm going to do here is this. I'm just going to go to my calculator. And I'm going to do this in a kind of a different way just to show you how I do this. The first thing I would do is I would just type in that first function. And the calculator gets a little bit confused occasionally. It'll say implied multiplication or implied operator or something. So when I do this, often I just go ahead and put x times, just so I know I'm not going to get that message back, sine x. And when you do sine x, make sure that you open the parentheses, put x in, right? Then all I'm going to do is this. From here, I'm just going to save this function. If you don't mind, I'm going to save it, Control, Store here, see it? Control, Store. And what I do usually is I store my function as f of x, Caitlin, my first derivative is g of x, and my second derivative as h of x, kind of so I can have it in my head. So I'm going to go ahead and save this as f of x. F of x. So it's not very impressive, but it's done. Now this is what I'm going to do, Joel. I'm going to take the first derivative of this, and this is a product rule problem here and a trig function, so it's a little bit complicated. Not terribly, but a little bit complicated. But if I do this, if you go to your menu screen, you'll see this. I'm going to go straight to calculus. When I get to calculus, I'm going to take this first derivative here. That is to say, the first option for derivatives. Our function is a function of x, so d dx. And then look, instead of having to type that whole thing out, Joel, I just type in f of x. F of x. And that indeed is the first derivative of this, Joel, of this thing right here, is this. So that's actually true. So now what I'm going to do, instead of going through all this typing it over and over thing, is I'm just going to hit Control, Answer. Here's the answer key down here, right? In blue it's written answer. Then I'm going to hit Control, Store, and I'm going to say that is g of x. So now I have f of x stored. I have the first derivative stored, right? And guess what I'm going to do now? I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take the first derivative of the first derivative, otherwise known as the second derivative. Okay? So you're exactly right. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to say Control. I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to menu, go to calculus, choose the first selection for derivative. Remember, it's a function of x, so d dx of what? Of g of x, right? Taking the second derivative. G of x equals that mess, and that is the second derivative of that function. So if you don't mind, I'm going to hit Control, Answer, Control, Store, save it as what? Not f, not g, but h. And you're probably saying, why the hell does it matter? Because you're going to see in a second, here's h of x. So our job was not just to find those derivatives, but to graph them, right? So the only thing we had to type in was the first function, and then we used the derivative function and the store function to gather them all, didn't we? Pretty easy, don't you think? So now look at the picture we're going to get here. So now go back. In your case, you're going to go to Control Page Down, and it's going to give you these options. And please choose Graphs. Watch what happens when I type this in. F of x. There's that f of x function. That's x sine x, isn't it? Remember that x sine x is f of x, right? Now I'm going to type in what? G of x. We just looked at this a second ago. And there's the derivative of that. Right? And lastly this one, h of x, h of x. I think this is really important in a lot of ways. One way is that on every single AP Calculus AB test, there's some picture of a bunch of graphs, and you're asked to find. They say these are the graphs of f of x, g of x, and h of x. Which is the parent function, which is the derivative, and which is the second derivative. And you have to be able to find that out. So this is a good way to be able to do that. You could practice knowing what's what. And also, it's a cool picture, right? I know, right? Okay. I hope this is helpful. Bye.